maybe she can call in.
Okay. Well, we will start the recording then, and
there's Amy.
Welcome you to this special training for Morgan's girls, women, and her team. And I'm really excited to be talking to you today about something that's near and dear to my heart, because when you unleash your story, it's unleashing a part of yourself and sharing your gifts with the world, and being able to talk about your experiences and connect with people just endears you to them. And what I would like to do is have us introduce ourselves and our intention for being part of this training, and to make sure that I am going to be speaking to what you need from me today. So Morgan, would you like to start?
I would love to. Yeah. And first of all, thanks so much, Mary, for your time. And you guys all know, but I've met Mary through one of my awesome networking events, and she just has a heart of gold. And like you guys saw, she's an author, she's a writer, and she helps people find their stories. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think the biggest struggle I know that I've faced, and a lot of you, is finding out our why, on how we can really share with people and get that across. So I was like, okay, this would be so fun to do a team training. So for me, my intention, number one, is to learn some things on how I can help my team grow, you guys and future team, because that's really important to me. But also, I'm always a work in progress. I'm not perfect. My story, I've realized through my 6 years in Arbonne, always changes. And I always thought it had to be the same story, but things evolve and change, and that's where a lot of growth comes into play. And I know my life right now is changing. So I'm in the new place of formulating a new why and what that's going to look like, and kind of more of who my target market's going to be, moms, and really developing my story, kind of coming into this new phase of life.
Oh, thank you, Morgan. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Who would like to go next? Okay.
I guess I will.
Are you going to record too, Mary, after?
It's recording.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
You want me to go? This is
Yes,
Olivia.
please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm on here because I need to find my why. Like Morgan said, your why changes all the time. Initially, when I started the business, it was to share about the nutrition, because I had great results. So I'm sharing, and then life got in the way, changes when I lost my mom. And so since that time, it's finding what drives me. Like, I can't pinpoint what's going to drive me to motivate to share. I love sharing with everyone, but then that's as far as it ever goes.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm stuck.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a lot of, like Morgan said, I have a lot of things going on, being grandma and mom and wife and brother, sister. We were planning, I've got a prayer group goes once a week, and prepare for that. And there's just a lot, everyone's life is like that. You just have a lot going on, but it's learning to find how to schedule my priorities.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Who's next?
I'll go. Hi, I'm Amy.
Hi, Amy.
I think I need to just learn how to, I know what my why is for sure. I know why I'm doing it. I need to learn how to use that to help me push through my boundaries and my kind of, I think I need a way to express it better too to people. And
That's good.
Because it's in my head, but sometimes when I start to talk about it, it doesn't come out the way that it is in my head. And I feel like it's not as effective as it could be. And, I want to come across as authentic, because that's how I feel. And so I just want to keep it in my mind so that I can express it better and use it to help propel it forward.
Mm-hmm. So you're going in and out a little bit.
Okay. I'll see what I can do. I'm having a bad connection. We'll work on it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Victoria, you want to go?
Yeah, I'll totally share. So I think it's the same thing what was her name? Amy just said too. I think like I feel really comfortable with my why. And I think I struggle with asking the right questions and the right strategic questions to help find others what their why is, to maybe kind of connect on that level. So it like makes for like a much more natural conversation, or just how to share it a lot more naturally. Because for me, I was like, okay, I knew exactly what I was what registered with me when having like a first conversation with someone. And now I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm sharing more my why instead of maybe, like I said, asking the right questions, or, just having more conversation and then being like, oh, maybe that's their why and they don't even know it yet. And kind of honing in and dialing in on that when just out and about or having, conversations with people.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I see Sherry's here.
I'll share now.
I can't hear you, Sherry. We can see you. I can't hear you.
Unmute yourself. It looks like you were trying. There you go.
Oh, there you go. We can hear you now. Yay!
Good morning, everyone.
Hey.
Good morning. So were you on when Mary asked the question about what she wants me to share on?
No.
Okay.
We're just going around the room introducing ourselves and giving the intention for why you're showing up and sharing your valuable time with us today.
So, I'm new to Arbonne. I'm an artist in my, not really day job, in my life. And I'm trying to figure out how to best present both my art and my Arbonne work and get people more engaged. That's my why, or why I'm here.
Okay. Fabulous. Thank you. Okay.
Next. Can you guys hear me?
Heather? Yes.
Yeah. So I think my intention today and what I would love to get out of today is, I am coming up on my 3-year anniversary with Arbonne, and for like the first year or so, I really wasn't clear what my why was. I didn't really have like a really deep embedded need for Arbonne. But obviously over time it has developed, but I think just getting clearer on like really that deep why, because I think it's really easy to say surface things. It's really easy to say, well, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, or, I want to, help my parents when they retire, or I want to be able to have freedom and flexibility. But it's deeper than that. If your why is not deeper than that, then, you're not going to have the fuel that you need when times get hard, right? So I think figuring out just kind of how to dig deeper with myself, but also how to help my team do that too. My team, my current team and my future team, how to help them find their true why and dig deep and get to the, really like that inner desire, like as to why we're doing what we're doing, So I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. So do we get everybody? I know Amanda said that she was just going to listen, but if you wanted to pop in and give us your intention, are you able to do that? Doesn't appear to be happening. Okay. Well, thank you very much. As Morgan had said, I'm MaryEKnippel, the writer Unleashed, and the founder of YourReadyMentor.com. And the gesture has just gotten to be how I introduce myself, because I feel like we have to do more than the language, that we have to embody everything. And to tell you a little bit about my why, I've been a journalist for over 30 years, but I started writing in a journal when I was 11 because I knew that writing was going to be a big part of how I handled things, how I cope with things, how I figure things out. And despite the fact that I had an older brother who loved teasing me about, what are you writing in there? And thinking that there were deep, dark secrets. It was, who I thought was cute on TV and copying down poems because I loved the rhymes. But it came to be a friend and someplace where I could have deep conversations about stuff that was going on that I didn't necessarily want to share with the world, but getting it out of my body onto the page made a big difference. And that was especially important when I was diagnosed with breast cancer twice and going through everything that I endured physically and emotionally, processing that. And that's what I'm using as the basis for the book that I'm writing about how things happen in our life. We all have experiences that are ours alone, but that's our connection with the world at large. That's how we connect our why with the bigger world, a platform. Because you can use a statistic, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. And when I say that, that's just flat. It's a statistic. But when I say that's happened to me twice, then you have a face and you have a whole different level of connection. So when you're talking about going deeper with your why, that's how you do it. You find a commonality. There's a thread that's yours alone, and you connect it with the world. And when we're talking about my background and my particular details, that's my perspective alone. And my mission is to help you be visible, vibrant, and prosperous in sharing your story. And how I am being visible is by writing and speaking and doing these kinds of trainings when I have the opportunity to make a difference in who is in front of me. Because our stories are ours alone. Nobody can tell your story except you from your perspective. And that's why you are going to be able to connect that you're being authentic and genuine. When I was growing up, I was the good girl who always wanted to please others, and watching Donna Reed on TV, wearing her pearls and vacuuming and reading Irma Bombeck and laughing about how Irma Bombeck would tell stories not only about making the pot roast, but burning the pot roast. And I don't know if any of you remember or have heard of Irma Bombeck, but she was a prolific writer who wrote about real people and real people's stories. And that's what I wanted to do. I said that, I think I want to go to school to study journalism. And I wasn't encouraged to do that because I wasn't necessarily the smart kid who was going to go on a path to go to college to be a doctor or a teacher, something that required 4 years. And writing wasn't realistic because I was the shy, quiet Mary. And so my higher education was a 1-year secretarial certificate. And I've used those skills, and I use those skills today. But I never let go of my dream of becoming a journalist. And I rewrote my story when I had the chance at the age of 30 to go to school full time and become a journalist. And I may not have sat behind an anchor desk or reported from a war zone, but what I've been doing for 30 years for small businesses and nonprofits is helping tell real people stories. And that is what I love to do, to be able to sit in front of you and draw out your story, to know that the bits and pieces, all those experiences that you have had, they are meant to impact someone else. Because think about when you have books that you love, you've read something, and it changed your life. What if that author had just thought, why bother? Who's going to read this? And when someone has said to you, no, you made a difference by what you said to me. What if you could impact thousands because you are writing from your heart and you are writing something that is true for you, so that who's reading it or who you are conversing with is going to know that there's a connection there, that the two of you have this bond because there's an understanding. I have been fortunate enough to work with some wonderful women and helping them tell their stories. And when you are able to go in depth into finding your why and using it as the basis for how you approach what you're doing with your business or your passion, and if your business is your passion, then there's an added layer of you being able to just explode, and it just shows all over you when you meet someone and you're showing up and sharing. One of the gals that I was working with on her About Me section on her website was wanting to really be visible as not just, oh, I'm somebody that I know this business. And so we talked about her first job, and she wanted to give me the bullet points of, I worked here and I won this award because I hit this plateau, and I got her to think about where she started. Really, the first job, when she got someone to pay her for a service. And she said, well, the first thing I really did was to babysit a newborn for her next door neighbor. And she was 10 years old. And she didn't see the significance of a 10-year-old convincing an adult that she could handle taking care of a newborn. And she just laughed it off, and she said, oh, because this neighbor had seen me with my brother who was handicapped, so she knew I was a responsible kid. Okay, but here's the correlation. Here's the correlation here. Her business is sales. She excels at convincing people that she can handle whatever it is that they need her to do. And she's been doing it since she was 10 years old. So it's part of her whole structure. But she wasn't sharing that on her About Me page. She wasn't sharing that when she introduced herself in a networking event where people could lean in and see her humanity. And I encouraged her to do that at another networking event where we were at. And she was on a panel, and she said, are you sure? People want to know that I can handle things. And I said, but they also want to know that you're a well-rounded person and not just that you're this bulldog that is going to be there for them. And that's what, when you know your why and you have the layer of the story of why you're doing that, your passion that motivates you and keeps you doing this on a daily basis, that you could roll out of bed and do this because it's just your oxygen. This is what feeds you. And she went. She was part of the panel, and she did share about her first job babysitting. And I watched the group lean in and learn something new about her. And afterwards she said, I had this opportunity to speak before, but I've never had this many people come in and up and say, hey, that was really interesting, and can we talk later? Because I've been thinking about doing this with you, but you didn't seem to be someone who would get me. And that's what I want for you, is to be able to have the language that who needs to hear you is going to lean in to talk to you. And that's one of the tips that I want to share with you today, to pay attention to who needs to hear your story, because there's someone out there that is waiting to hear your story. And when you get out of your own way to think about them first, then you will find the language and you will be able to talk comfortably and confidently about what you do, the service that you have, and the products that you have are the answer to what these women are looking for. So that's tip number 1. And the second tip is to be cautious about who you share your dreams with, because there will be people who, that already have you in a box, already know what you're all about, and are going to discount anything that you say that doesn't fit their criteria. I shared with my family that I was going to write this memoir about my breast cancer experience, and someone in my family said, well, did you really have breast cancer? Because it didn't look like mine. And that's why I want you to be aware when you're sharing things, because your story is your story. Mine didn't look like, my breast cancer experience didn't look like hers. We all have our own experiences, and we react to them the way we're going to react. And we mine the wisdom of what our experience has been. And that's what we bring to who needs to hear our story. And the third tip that I want to share with you is my favorite tip. And that is, you have available at the ends of your fingertips this tool to be able to rewrite your story. You don't have to learn a new skill. You don't have to go travel to India to work with a guru. And you don't have to buy all kinds of fancy equipment. You have a journal and you have a pen, and you can rewrite your story. You can dive deep into your why and develop the language that you're going to use consistently to be able to talk to who's in front of you. And what I had promised today is that you are going to not only talk about writing, that we are not only going to talk about writing, we are going to have a little writing experience. And to help you get into this state of mind where you can have the experience of doing a writing exercise, we are going to do a little meditation. Then I'm going to play some music, and you are actually going to write. So I hope you're all in a space and have a piece of paper and a pen that you can go deep, or go into a place where you are going to listen to your heart and take dictation. Because that's what journaling is for me. It's being able to get what's going on in my head out onto the page. So the meditation is a very simple one that we're going to go into right now. And if you can plant your feet on the ground and close your eyes if you feel comfortable. we're just going to put all of our energy into our left ankle. Take a breath there. And then move that energy up to your right knee. And thank it for all of the support it gives us. And move that energy to your left shoulder, no, your left hip, your left hip. Breathe into your left hip. And move up to your right shoulder. And take a breath there. And drop down into your heart. And listen to whatever message that you're receiving right now. Could be about your why. It could be about the language that you want to be sharing. It could be about who you are here to help, and the gifts that you are here to deliver. When you're ready, take up your pen, and we're going to write for 2 minutes. Okay, we'll bring everybody back. Does anybody want to share about the experience? You don't have to read what you wrote, but I would be curious to find out how the experience was for you.
I'll share.
Okay.
So I've always definitely considered myself not a writer. I always need like prompting things to write about. So when I felt myself like, oh my gosh, I gotta write, right? It created some resistance. So I started writing, and then what I found myself doing was not like writing full sentences. I was just kind of writing like keywords that was coming to me, or, you know, that was helping me formulate my why and kind of why I do what I do, and what words were coming to me when I was thinking about, you know, when I share with somebody those key things that I really want to make sure that they know. So instead of like the whole sentence and like writing, I was just kind of writing words randomly.
Okay.
So that's enough for me.
So I encourage you to give the critic, the inner critic, another job to do, to give yourself permission to explore the writing experience. And just the way you have to build up your muscle when you go work out, you're not going to pick up the 50-pound weights right away and go, ooh. You're going to start with a 5-pound weight and work into it. So your writing exercises are like that as well, that you set the timer for 5 minutes and you don't look at the timer, you just let your hand move across the page and let the words flow and tumble out in whatever order they're going to be in. That you don't have to worry about, did I spell that right? Should that be a semicolon there? That editor and that critic can just go to the beach and watch the waves, because you just want to get the words down on the paper and then see what comes next. Everything I've done personally and professionally started as an entry in my journal in some form. And that's what I would like for you to entertain the thought of. Some people, they only journal when they have a specific project that they really need to get some structure around, and it helps them with the creativity and just managing their energy around the project. It's whatever works for you, but for me, being able to spend 15 minutes in the morning with my journal sets my day. That's why I'm encouraging you to think about 5 minutes a day and putting it on your calendar. And you don't have to tell anybody else that, oh yeah, those initials, that means that I'm supposed to write in my journal at that time. That's your time to have a conversation on paper with you, with your trusted friend, with your confidant, your advisor, who is going to be a witness to what you're struggling with and celebrating with you when you have a great day and you figure something out. You have somebody say, you really made a difference with my whatever, that you saw me and you helped me with this. And that's what writing and knowing your why can do for you. It can help you find the language for you to connect with who's waiting to hear from you, but they haven't quite tuned into you, because you're going back and forth about, how am I going to say this? And tweaking things is fabulous. But when you tweak it one way and it goes so far in that people don't understand what it is, then they're not going to be going, oh yeah, she's who I need. So just the way Morgan was talking about the key words, when you use the same language and switch it up, the order that you're saying it in, or you're bringing in another example, but you're using the same phrases to introduce it, or to the same phrase as your catchphrase, as your buzzword. When I was in BNI, we had to introduce ourselves every week, and trying to find something that was a different way to introduce ourselves. No, I invariably would go back to your business lives in language, and my business is helping you write that language. And that said, I help you find the words and the way to connect with who needs to hear you. I firmly believe that we all have a message to deliver to the world. And when we don't deliver it, someone or some bodies are not going to have the impact that we are supposed to be delivering, because we're holding on. We're not unleashing our words into the world. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody think?
Okay, so I kind of have a question. So I get, we're writing to kind of figure out our story. Can you give us any, prompting things, like, because we all want to create our why and how we can share it with other people and dial that in. Is there any specific questions that we can be asking ourselves, or that will help us write to find that? Because I know I can keep writing, but I'm like, well, how am I still going to get to really what I want to be sharing?
That's a good, excellent. So one of the things that you can use your journal for is to give yourself writing prompts. It's like, what do I need to know today to move my business along? Who needs me, and what does she look like, and what is she struggling with? Because when we're offering a product or a service, the chances are we're not the only one with that product or service in some form. And we have to be clear about our motivation. The fact that this changed in my life, and I feel strongly that I was changed, and the way that I figured out how to be the best me that I can be was using XYZ. And I want to tell everybody about this. I want everybody to feel as good as I feel. And that is how you find the way that you connect. You be genuine with what you're talking about, that they will lean in to the energy of you being genuinely happy being you. And one idea would be to go through and think of all the challenges that you have had, and then what was the difference between then and now. When I went the first time I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I immediately went back into my life like nothing happened. I don't want to think about this. Not, I had the surgery, and it was one-day surgery, because mine was the type of cancer that was just in my ducts. I didn't have to have a lot of other procedures. So it was simple, quote unquote, for me to just ignore that I had been diagnosed. But the 3.5 years later, when I was diagnosed again, I had to have the same kind of surgery, but this time there was a brain shift, my attitude shift, as far as I am not going to go back into life as normal because I don't want this to happen again. I'm going to do everything I can do physically and emotionally to get me to stand up for myself and tell my story, and to go out there and let other women know that your story matters because it's your story. That is what is important. And being who you are as the gift that God made you to be in this world. And being able to articulate in all different ways that making dinner does make a difference. So, sorry, when I talk about the ordinary things, daily life, being a journalist who talks about how us going about our daily business is having an impact on the rest of the world, because the daily life, the making dinner things, that matters to the family that you're making it for. That matters to the rest of the world because we're keeping everything on a normal access. And when you make a list of the stressors in your life, of the major stressors that have happened to, statistically, a loss of a loved one, a major move, catastrophic illness, divorce, those have all happened to me at least twice. Although I will say I have been married for over 40 years. So there hasn't specifically been a divorce, but things have gone up and down. And so there have been a lot of changes. But when you say, loss of a loved one, that's one of the reasons why I have been successful as a speaker, is because my brother passed away and his kids came to me and asked me to write his eulogy. And I not only wrote it, I delivered it. So that was baptism by fire as being a speaker. But I was adamant that I was the one who had to tell his story from my perspective. And everyone was touched by what I came up with to illustrate his whole demeanor and his being the big brother who teased me my entire life about my journal and my writing. And there I was using my writing to say goodbye to him, along with everyone else in the church. And being able to use what's happened in your life to make connections. So finding the specific why that keeps you motivated is something that I think that I excel at, because I've been a journalist for over 30 years. I ask really good questions to help you go deeper. And you can do it on your own, but it takes longer. Going through and making a list of the things that have happened in your life, when you graduated from school, when your best friend moved away, when something happened with the job that you really wanted, or something happened at the job that you thought was going to be the ideal, and you got in there and found out, well, they changed the job description and didn't tell me, but now I'm expected to do X, and I left my last job because that's all I did, and I wanted more adventure. I wanted more responsibility. I wanted to make a difference in another way. We decide how we're going to make a difference. And as being independent consultants, as being independent whatever, then we are rewriting our story. And when you talked about being stuck, when you talk about what drives me, when you talk about being a work in progress, every day, every 24 hours, we get to be another work in progress. And isn't that a gift to be able to get up and know that I get to make these choices today. And I get to choose what people know about me and what people see, and how I can't control how they react to me, but I can control the energy that I'm putting out. It's like, gee, I am so happy to be me today. And if you want to know more about being happy to be you and finding the story that is going to be the one that compels people to lean into you, I would love to have a longer conversation with you. I created a special for you that is the Your Story to Sales activation session with me. That's $97. That's an interview where we will talk about all of the experiences that you have had and dive deeper into the ones, because as women, we have had so many experiences that we may not recognize is something that we are going to be able to connect on a different level, on a deeper level. The example I gave of the gal who wasn't talking about the babysitting job, and she's in sales. I know that we are multidimensional, and the stuff that we just think, well, everybody knows that. Everybody in my family does that, or everybody in my community. I was part of a group and we all did that. There are things that just seem like, well, that's just part of me, that we're not talking about because we don't recognize our diverseness and our uniqueness, and the way that we can build the bridge between what we're talking about and who needs to hear us. The way we can say all of the creative things that we do as an artist, and being an artist of the everyday. That because we are willing to change our mind about something and explore something new, that's us expressing our creativity. And as an example of how we can invite our clients and our customers and who's in front of us to explore the creativity in their lives. I also would love to talk to you on have a complimentary consultation if the $97 offer doesn't speak to you right now, because you know that there's something that you want to say and you're not sure about the language that you want to use. So by the time we had finished our half-an-hour consultation, you would know the next steps to be able to find that language. But the $97 offer, you would be able to go forward with language, because we would go through and dive deep into stories that you want to be telling to connect with who needs to hear you. Does anybody have any questions?
No, any questions, but I think it's really good to get back to journaling. I know we learn a lot of that when we start our business, to think about your why and write down 8 things that if you didn't pick up the phone right now that you'd lose out on, or maybe your kids aren't important if you're not going to make that call to book something. And I think really I think today was just a good reminder to get back to journaling. And if we don't have that clarity, to just give ourselves, the 5-10 minutes in the morning to really figure out what we want. Mm-hmm. And to get over our fears too, because sometimes we can think too much about it, but if we don't get them out on paper to find that clarity, then we're kind of, I feel like, stuck. And I know for me, I'm definitely not consistent in the journaling, but one of the things that changed my business when I did it was Miracle Morning for Network Marketing Professionals. And one of the top 5 things that you do to start your day is journaling. Uh-huh. So for me today, it's just kind of a good reminder that, I know for me, when I hear the same things over and over, it's just kind of like okay, Morgan, this is something that you really need to do. But thanks for offering us to work with you individually, because I know sometimes maybe that's what some of us need, is maybe not somebody in Arbonne to really tell us, but maybe somebody that's, not in this business to really help dive in, that could, find something deeper than, maybe I can as a leader. So I think that's really good. And just like you said, it's going to take more than an hour in a day to really find what our story is and to find those questions and all of that. But I definitely got some stuff out of it today for sure. So I just
did too.
And we don't have one story. And our story changes because
that's key.
And it evolves. We are a work in progress, and to recognize that we are unique, and just like there's no two snowflakes, there's no two of us. Yeah. So our story matters because it's our story, and nobody can tell my story but me. Nobody can tell Morgan's story except Morgan. Nobody can tell Sherry's story except Sherry. So, and that's my wish and my mission that you take away from this.
Yeah, I love it.
I love it. Good.
Do you guys have anything to add, or any questions or anything like that?
So I do. Quick question. So as we start to journal, or as we try to find our why, like she talked about the gal that was the babysitter, like her first experience and stuff. So is that, because some of us are struggling or stuck or whatever, should we start there? Should we start that far back and go forward? Because she talked about, what was it? Oh my gosh. She talked about all the challenges that you have come up with throughout your life and how that has changed you. So is that a good place to start? Do we start back from when we were young and go forward?
It's totally, that's the beauty of journaling, is that it's all about you, and you can ask, when you start to journal, you can ask the journal, what do I need to know right now? Where should I start? And let your pen move across the page. And that's what I want to stress, is that you are using pen and paper. That as much as technology is fabulous, it slows you down to be physically writing, and the strong connection between your heart and your hand, so that your head has less time to be doing that monkey brain stuff. Mm-hmm. And just the way Morgan started making a list, if you get into a list, don't criticize yourself about that. Just pay attention to, is there stuff that's showing up on my list all the time? And I would caution you, if the journaling time turns into your to-do list, then reassess, what do I want to accomplish from showing up on the page today? Because there's a place for the to-do list. I'm a list maker too. But when I want to spend time with my journal, that's where the details show up. When you give them free range to show up and just tumble out. And one thing I also wanted to offer is, I send out a weekly writing prompt as my gift to the people on my list right now. So if you signed up for my list, I would be sending you different ideas to be writing about. And it may seem like it's a roundabout way to get to your why, but they are all relevant things that if you were blogging, if you struggle with, well, what am I going to talk about when I introduce myself today? It's another way to get into, I can talk about it's effective communication month. How are you connecting with who needs to hear you? And that's another way for you to get into what am I going to talk about right now? So I offer that as another gift for you. And you can just go to my website and sign up. I'll put the link in here.
Okay.
Perfect. And will you send us this recording? You'll send all of us or me? Okay. It'll be good to go back to. And I love, Victoria had the point earlier, she was like, she knows her why, but it's linking it to other people. Like, how can I find theirs to really connect? And I love what you said. I mean, we hear this all the time, but it's about finding commonality with people. And until you can really connect, then that's when we always feel disconnect, right? When we can't really get in, to really know their why. So I love the, maybe getting deeper into journaling about what questions would serve the people we're in front of. And I know that's ever changing for me, but I did just finish a really good book. I've read it twice. It's called Great Leaders Ask Great Questions. Mm-hmm. I want to tell you that, Victoria. I think that might really be helpful for you. But I think once we're clear on our why, it's clear asking questions to people.
Just saying, I'm curious, and lead into. But when we are showing up as genuinely interested and not just, hey, I've got this new product and don't you want this?
Yeah.
And that's the difference. That's the difference between someone who is just like, I want to get out of your space right now, or, oh, there she is. She talked to me as if I was really a person that she wanted to get to know. So that's the awareness.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
Thank you, gals.
No, that was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think even just with the meditation, just remembering, for me at least, like, am I listening to them also and what to connect with? And I think is same with this business. I think it's a big part of just listening to whomever you're speaking to. And then maybe, like that connection will come a little bit more just organically when that's happening. But am I really listening to them? Or am I just already ready to say what I want to say on my end?
That was good. Good point.
Yes, I am committed to inspiration, compassion, and synchronicity. I believe firmly that everything happens at the right time for the right reason, and we may not recognize it, but being inspired by our own wisdom and having compassion for the stories that make us who we are. And I wish that all for you.
Perfect. Thanks, Mary.
Great. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for joining.